Welcome to the Problematic Gaze with me, Dr. Lee Arnott.
And me, Dave Moore.
Each episode, we'll take a piece of pop culture from the last 60 years and examine it through the problematic lens. Is it problematic? If it is problematic, what does that say about society and culture then? And what does it say about society and culture now?
And before we take a deep dive into our chosen topic, we'll look at the news events of the day. We'll look at what was in the TV landscape, and we'll also look at the charts. So how are you, Lee?
I am very good, thank you. You?
Very good. Tiny bit of toothache, but I've been to the dentist, so it's fine.
I was going to say, I've had a bit of a running saga with a very wobbly tooth, another sign of age, and it's at the back and it's still not coming out. So my mortality stares me right at the face at the moment, David. No, it doesn't.
So are you going to tie a bit of cotton to it and then tie the other bit to the door handle and kick the door shut?
No, because I'm not insane. It'll come out when it's coming out. It's been waiting for ages, honestly. It's just hanging on. It's just clinging on.
You're going to look a bit like Albert Steptoe if you're not careful.
Thank you. That's not a look I'm working towards. How are you feeling about Bake Off?
I enjoyed Bake Off. Yeah, absolutely. Got right back into it. The quality of the baking is quite good this year. So I got into that. Right. What about you? I
am, and I don't know if it's the times are changing, but I am absolutely apathetic about Bake Off. And I'm very concerned that I appear to have lost Strictly mojo.
I've lost my Strictly mojo too.
What's that about, do you think?
I think it's about the quality of the contestants. It has to be said, the calibre of the contestants. Nobody draws me in. And the only person that did draw me in, perchance, was maybe Toya.
Oh, I know.
Not one to speak ill of people, as you know. But her dance partner is not one of my favourites. Let's just leave it there. Let's not do a deep dive into Neil. But no, anyway. I'm watching it and it just all feels just a little bit flat and lackluster. And I don't care about. I just don't care about Nick Knowles, and I don't care about.
I know.
I can't even think about who else is there, but I'm just not that bothered. And maybe it's the universe's way of telling us to get a life.
Yeah. To stop revolving Saturday night around bloody Strictly. Yeah, maybe it is.
Will we still be feeling this way when it's absolutely fucking freezing outside and we've got nothing else to do but sit inside and watch telly with the fire on?
Well, we could just choose to watch something else. Anyway, let's not go too much down the Strictly rabbit hole. But yes, I'm quite surprised at how, for me, it was just all feeling a bit, I just feel a bit loud and a bit gaudy and just a bit artificial, and all of it just seemed stale, I guess. I posted this week a little clip from Threads on our social media accounts, which seemed to have triggered quite a lot of people. And in a good way, obviously. Everybody's quite horrified by memories of watching it. And BBC4 have announced a special evening of shows in October all around the Cold War and nuclear war stuff, including re-showing Threads on the first time on BBC Telly for the first time in like 40 years. So guess what? We'll be doing one of our episodes on mid-October when everyone else can join in and watch it.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, I mean, we talked about doing Threads for a while now, so I'm pleased that's coming up. I mean, I love the Cold War. That's right up my Strasse, and to put Threads on as well is great, isn't it?
It is.
So anyway, I normally like to talk at length about things, but we might have to wrap this chat up and crack on with the podcast because I've got somewhere to be this evening.
Really? Where?
Go to see Janet Jackson in concert.
Yes, you are. How did that come about?
Well, it all started back in about 1989.
Well, not that far, darling. Just how you got the tickets.
My friend Anita and Pfizer, they got the tickets, so I'm going to see her. But I've been a huge fan for years and years and years. Let's gloss over the past week where she's been getting into hot water for saying some ridiculous things about Kamala Harris's origins. But we're just going to gloss over that. And go and have a good time. Yeah, Rhythm Nation. I'll be there with my Rhythm Nation uniform on. I was walking the dogs this morning and I was really uber cautious not to bend over and pull the dogs away from fighting other dogs because that's how I did my backing. Do you remember when I went to see Madonna in December?
Oh, yeah.
And I literally had to crawl from Hertfordshire to the O2 to get there because I put my back out. So I don't want a repeat performance of that tonight.
No, please. Please try to remain vertical and lumbago free.
Let's crack on then with that in mind. I've got places to be. What are we going to be talking about this week?
We are looking at an episode of Love Island from series 8, episode 40. I couldn't believe when you sent me the link. It was like, episode how many? It's like, wow, they do a lot of episodes per season.
They do, don't they? We don't know anything about... Well, we didn't know anything about Love Island before we started this.
Broadcast on the 15th of July, 2022. What was your relationship with Love Island?
I have absolutely zero relationship with Love Island. I know it exists, and that's about it.
I was the same, but the women I used to work with, a lot of them loved it, and they would just come in so excited and chat about it the next day. I'd never ever seen it before this episode. As we said before we were recording, I don't want to disparage Love Island. I don't want to disparage people who watch it. It was a piece of telly. Do you know what I mean? It's not something I would watch, but that's not to say I'm going to diss it or slag it off.
So we kind of made a pact, didn't we, that we'd just watch Love Island objectively because it is so popular. For us to start disparaging it or the contestants in it, I just think would just be quite a bad look, really, and make us very problematic days. Yeah, so this is our explanation into the phenomenon of it and why it's popular. Because, anyway, for anyone who doesn't know what Love Island is, it's a British reality show. It's presented by Maya Jama, and it has been presented previously by Caroline Flack and Laura Whitmore. The show has been highly successful and influential in British popular culture. It became ITV2's most watched show in their network's history in 2018, and as of 2020... was the most watched TV show among its target audience of 16 to 34-year-olds. So that's the kind of demographic it's aiming for, isn't it?
Yeah. It's not a show for us by any stretch of the imagination. But anyway, so 2022, should we have a look at what's happening in the year? Because it was quite a miserable year.
It feels like literally yesterday.
The weird thing is just how much you forget, because COVID is still raging on. The war in Ukraine has kicked off. We have the big one, Prince Philip dies, the Queen dies. It's like, bloody hell, this is the year of 3 prime ministers. It's massive.
The year of the lettuce.
You know, that the Spanish word for lettuce is la lechuga. And every time I see her, I just think la lechuga, like that in my head. That really suits her, I think. It sounds like a
Let's
witch,
just be clear, you're not talking about your mum or anything. You're talking about Liz Truss, former Prime Minister.
Liz Truss, yeah. This is all the beginning of the year is all the Partygate stuff, you know, when they were caught having drinks parties in Downing Street. And then the spring of that year is just going to be Boris Johnson lying again and again and again about what he was doing there and that he wasn't really there. And then it was a birthday party that was sprung on him, you know. And
it just went on and on and on. And that was the beginning of the end, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
For the Conservative Party, you know, just like insulting the nation's intelligence again and again and again, and see that play out. It's just like, you know, the highest institution of the land was just, I know I work in TV and everything, but that was the best storytelling I've seen. I think politics and the way it plays out is better than any drama you'll watch on TV. Just to observe human nature at its best and its worst.
In February, the government publishes a white paper on its levelling up strategy. Remember that? It's supposed to be the bloody thing. Nobody's had any money from that at all.
40 new hospitals and levelling up. That's what they were going to do.
Yeah.
Didn't happen, did it?
The Queen has her Platinum Jubilee. It's a big year for the Queen, obviously, for many reasons. Prince Andrew settles his Virginia Giffrey case out of court in February. It's not getting too paid for the legal fees for that. Oh, do you remember when P&O in March just stopped all its services? The big ferry company stopped all its services and sacked 800 employees and said you can rejoin your job at this reduced rate. And then said, well, that's what Brexit allows us to do, isn't it? It was like everyone's up in arms about it. In April, the United Nations Refugee Agency condemns the government's plan to send migrants to Rwanda, deeming it illegal and discriminatory under international law. You know, all that Rwanda ugliness, that's just...
It's just so toxic, wasn't it? That's fallen by the wayside as well, thankfully.
Yeah, in April, there's that MP who's caught watching porn on his phone in the House of Commons, you know, and he's the one who claimed, I was looking up tractors, you know. Oh, no, you ended up in some some woman who's sitting behind him complains. He's just sitting there watching porno. It's like
there's a time and a place for that kind of thing, isn't it? And it isn't.
There is.
The House of Commons.
No. There's the Eurovision Song Contest where we have our near victory, where Ukraine win, but Sam Ryder is number 2. And it's our best ever Eurovision for decades.
You were at our house that year, weren't you? And we had our Ukrainian friend Daria with us. And it was a very emotional night because of the events in Ukraine and Ukraine winning the song contest and Britain coming second. I'll always remember that night. It was very emotional. I think she was very grateful, I think, to have people around her. And
yes, absolutely. You could really feel for her, couldn't you? The situation. Her family was still over there and stuff. And it still rumbles on. It's still a fucking nightmare.
So what we normally do is look at the TV of the day, but because it's only 2022, I think everybody knows what was going on in 2022 TV-wise, don't we? So let's just skip to the official singles chart.
And let's go to number 40, and let's prepare ourselves to read a list of 40 things, names and words that we've never heard in our lives put in that order before.
Absolutely. This is the week commencing the 15th of July, 2022.
When was the last time you looked at the music chart from anything before, like, 2010?
I mean, I don't even know. I mean, it's so complicated these days about how they're compiled. I don't even know how they're compiled. I mean, back in our day, you went out and bought a song, didn't you? And then you
bought your records. You bought your record. It got written down in a book, and it got taken to a place. Now,
and there were people there typing it all in, counting it all up. Nowadays, it's all downloads. And does download mean you bought the download, or you just played it on Spotify or Apple, whatever?
David, don't go there.
I don't even know. Because you get to the point now where Ed Sheeran releases an album or Taylor Swift releases an album, and every single song on that album will have charted.
For example, on this top 40, Ed Sheeran has 3 songs in for precisely that reason, all of which I've not heard, obviously. I've heard of Doja Cat.
You've heard of Doja Cat.
Obviously. Oh, you see, there are a few names. Calvin Harris, Dua Lipa, I know them.
Yep.
I know Drake. Obviously, I don't know his music, but I know of Drake. Metallica.
Post Malone. Lady Gaga. She's still knocking around. Hold My Hand, number 27. But and this is going to be very quick, isn't it? Because we just don't really know. Number 20, Go, Cat Burns.
Not heard of it in my life. Running Up That Hill at Kate Bush is at number 5. That was the resurgence after Stranger Things, wasn't it? She was thrilled about that.
Oh, yeah, there we go. Somebody we know.
Beyonce at number 4 with Break My Soul. I know that song.
Yeah.
I can actually say there's a modern song I know.
Yeah. Is that the one that sampled Madonna's Vogue? Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
And number 1, Afraid to Feel by LF System. Well, I'm sure it was good.
I've never heard of that in my life before.
No, nor me.
As long as you like Harry Styles and as long as you like Ed Sheeran, then you're kind of winning on that chart, aren't you? Not one for us, that one, really, was it?
No. We'd be sitting on the corner of the dance floor looking very lost and sorry for ourselves if that was all playing, wouldn't it? If you went to a top 40 party today. Two little wallflowers from the north. Don't know their Lizos from their little Lizos. Their Lizzo. The Lizzos from the Beyoncés.
Or their Burner Boys from their Diplos. I think all we need to know about this particular season of Love Island, season 8 from 2022, is that David and Ekin-Su won ultimately.
Apparently so.
Gemma and Luca came second, Danny and India came third, and Andrew and Tasha came fourth. Now, I'd mentioned Tasha because it's very current, because Tasha is actually a contestant on the latest Strictly Come Dancing.
Is that her? Oh my God, I didn't join up the dots on that at all. No. Oh, well, that has transformed my whole reading of this then. Because she's in it quite a lot, isn't she? Because she's at the beginning, she's going to be eliminated with her guy. Anyway, she's not eliminated, but she's very upset about it because she was in the bottom two. And then some of the girls are comforting her. And then some guy comes over and goes, "What are you upset for? You've got a boyfriend now," or something like that.
Yeah.
It's all really playgroundy. The thing about this is the aim is to have a girlfriend or a boyfriend. But as far as I could tell, you didn't have to be faithful to that girlfriend and boyfriend. You're allowed to move around, or it was all a bit weird. Is this
Oh
what
my
straight?
God.
Is this what straight people do?
We're like two fucking nanas, aren't we, trying to work this out? What's going
So,
on?
I know we've got our finger on the pulse there, which just happens to be the pulse of a dying, infirm reptile in the corner.
Anybody who's
Um,
searching for a podcast and who's a Love Island fan who stumbles across ours and thinks, "Oh, Love
yes, I'm
Island, I'll
so
listen to that."
sorry. So last the summer wine. God. We need to be more Golden Girls and less Last of Summer Wine, please. Can we fix up that?
Oh
We
my
fix that
God.
now.
I think essentially they're kind of they're paired up, but then they're split up from those pairs, and then they go in different pairs, and then ultimately they pair up with the
Yeah, I
person they
couldn't
want to pair
quite
up. They get sent off to little kind of, I think it's called Casa
pair,
Amor or something, to kind of have some
pairing
alone
up
time together. And
places. Right.
yeah, yeah,
Because then Tasha and her guy were telling each other they love each other, and apparently they just got together that afternoon. So I was a bit confused by that. And then they basically all go to
yeah,
bed in a room together, which I thought was a
yeah.
bit weird. There was no bagging at all. It was just sleeping together. Then the next day, I felt like they were going to break out into Greece or something because Tasha was telling the girls about how she's told her fella that she's loved him. And then it cut to the boys telling his pals how they've said we love each other. And it was, I thought they were going to start bursting out in the bloody summer nights. It was all really weird. At one point, I looked away quickly, looked back, and there was a there was a girl trying to put a foot in a man's mouth in the swimming pool. I was like, this is taking a turn.
I thought the whole Tasha and I think it's Andrew thing
Yeah, it is,
was quite
Andrew.
sweet, and what it reminded me of
Look
in
at
a
you,
non-pack.
Sandra D. You're so taken in by it,
Yeah,
aren't you?
but what it kind of reminded me of, yeah, I am a bit Sandra D. It kind of reminded me of just what you're like at that age. Kind of mid-20s. I'm
Yeah,
not trying to sound patronising or anything, but emotions can be heightened, and you quite quickly you could fall head over heels in love with somebody in the space of a few hours. Do you know what I mean? But
yes, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
so that was the kind of the romantic side of me, but then the cynical side of me
yeah.
was like, how much is this just being played up to the cameras,
It's for
or how much of the
telly.
producers got involved in this and said, now you said you love each other, why don't you just go and tell the boys and you tell the girls, and
Yeah. Oh,
how much of this
undoubtedly,
is manufactured. I felt that was like very kind of clear storytelling going on here from the producers. There was the kind of the mean girl. They were trying to set up Ekin-Su as the kind of the mean girl the pick-me girl who hangs around with all the boys. Trying to
yeah.
set up Luca, the guy who told Tasha, who was upset,
Tasha.
to basically get a life and get on with it. Luca was set up as the villain of the piece, who kind of got his just desserts at the end. So yeah, there were very kind of clear, defined characters going on
Yeah.
I felt that they were being manipulated by the producers to kind of create these stories out of what was going on.
Oh, undoubtedly, that's reality TV in the essence, isn't it? It's not real. I mean, we're now in season 8 of this show. This episode is drawn from. So clearly, the contestants going into it know what's expected. They know what the potential rewards are for being in it. All credit to them. I've seen Ekin-Su on a couple of things.
Yeah.
Actually, she rocked up in the second series of American Traitors randomly. So there's a knowingness about the people who are coming into it. So undoubtedly the format is this. The producers know they need this storyline, they need this storyline. This is a narrative we're pushing for this. I did think it may be a little uncomfortable. They do this, they're told they've got to get dressed up for to go to the cinema premiere. And then there's basically a girls versus boys quiz of like kind of teenage questions about what's the biggest penis size ever recorded, and then they were able to watch videos of Ekin-Su and someone else being a bit flirty with another guy, and there was a little bit of, oh, she's lying, there was just this almost near nasty narrative that came in. There was a little bit of slut shaming I felt on her part, which again, this episode for me, at least, relatively unproblematic. You know, it felt very safe, to be honest.
Speaking of, the treatment of the men and women on here, that they were all very clearly being objectified, weren't they, by the production? That's the whole premise of the show, that we're there to kind of watch these beautiful people interact. So how did you feel about that?
Let's face it, they are very attractive people in Love Island. And it's not unpleasant to watch their physicalities because they're good-looking people. But in terms of wider questions about representation of bodies on a screen, it did feel quite exclusive. And I guess that's the dream, isn't it? They did argue that, this is what viewers want to see, which I suppose, but I'm just not interested in watching beautiful people hop into bed with each other. I think it felt quite exclusionary in lots of different ways, this program. The first one was obviously the bodies, because I know, Cal, surprise, it might surprise a lot of people. It wasn't like looking into a mirror, looking at the bodies on Love Island. But also, as gays of a certain age, pretty much 95% of the things we watch on telly are straight people getting off with each other, So do I want to see another set of people do what I've watched people do since sixth form, and when you're a teenager and all your straight friends are just like to change? Not that bothered.
I was just asked the question really about what we were watching, about the female beauty ideal and now also the male beauty ideal, and considering it's watched by such a wide audience of kind of 16 to 30-year-olds and beyond, what is it telling those viewers about what they have to do to be accepted, to be popular, to be glamorous, to get the Instagram following, to then monetize that and earn a living? At the same time, it's like, was it ever thus? I remember we talked before about in the 90s about the representations of females in beauty magazines like Cosmopolitan and Vogue, etc. And was that informing a generation of young women, this is the ideal and this is how you should achieve it, then prompting kind of bulimia and anorexia in younger women? I just wonder, this is kind of like a carry-on of that, isn't it? This is like a 21st century version of that. And it kind of makes me worry about how people watching, looking at their own bodies, making them feel shit about themselves.
Yeah, undoubtedly there is that. But let's not forget, whatever format of show that involves young people who are then able to get a career of sort out of it afterwards, there's always a little bit of a moral scare about it. Is this what young people should be aspiring to? Is it the X Factor? Is it Big Brother? Is it Opportunity Knocks back in the days in a certain way? But so I think there's always this slight anxiety which can kind of rear its head about, is this the only aspiration that young people have? Which is clearly not true. I think it's just another long line of those. And we bracket this, but I do think that this show, The Only Way is Essex and Made in Chelsea and Geordie Shore, all of which were contemporaneous, has definitely affected younger people and the body standards they place on themselves as to what is attractive, what is sexy, what is, I can only imagine the negative impact that probably has on a lot of people's mental health, because you see, as we know, you see stuff on social media which isn't a reality. And this show, and it's very much built into a social media kind of reality. So I think, because obviously we watched one episode, it didn't strike me this episode as particularly problematic, I have to say, but I understand Love Island has been criticised in other quarters for various things, looking after the mental health of its contestants. I think there were 2 suicides after the show. This series got 4.5 million viewers, I was seeing, and that's ITV2. That's a huge amount of people. That's a huge amount of social media shit outside the show as well. So I do know it got some criticism for its treatment of black people, especially black women, but always treated unfairly. There was always a level of discrimination against them.
I just wonder if I was younger, watching this as a younger gay man, looking at it, the male body ideals, being somebody who never really gave it a label at the time, but grew up with quite a bit of body dysmorphia we're both kind of a similar frame, aren't we? We're both tall people, but tall and slim people.
Yeah.
I felt as though growing up that if you weren't muscled or you weren't good looking, then you were inferior to those people. And, it kind of informs the way... Failing as a gay, and it really informs how you live your life. I mean, we've all been through our gym phases, haven't we, where we've tried to do that, tried to achieve this, but I think just body frame wise, it'd be very difficult for me or you to kind of achieve that. But still, there's that, I think it stems from that amount of shame and guilt that we feel growing up as gay boys, which we discussed before, because we're in the closet and, being gay is being is being viewed as being something to be ashamed of. And the fact that we can't achieve this body standard really plays onto your mind, doesn't it, a lot, as you're kind of, going through your formative years, etc.
But then look at it's not just the gays, look at the body standards women had to compare and contrast with. To some extent, the way men increasingly have to compare and contrast with. So, but certainly, we absolutely, I totally hear you about feeling when you're seeing the only representations of body you're seeing. If you feel inferior to that, then it's horrible. It
is horrible. But I think one good thing about getting older and being a gaze of a certain age, which is what we are now, is not having to feel as though you have to aspire to that. You can just watch the male form for what it is and appreciate it, but not envy it anymore.
Yeah.
So that's one positive thing about getting older.
But one other thing about the bodies in this thing is that in Love Island, its ratings have kind of halved and are diminishing each season. And because we've seen other shows come along which have allowed diversity of the contestants of bodies and stuff, like I Kissed a Boy, I Kissed a Girl, that one that Davina does about the parents, they've kind of took over from Love Island in a way that makes Love Island, with just this one type of body they can get on the show, look a bit outdated now and a little bit weird in some ways. It's not the juggernaut it was, I guess.
Something I wanted just to pick up on really quickly is the production values of Love Island, because ultimately, although there was a lot of storytelling in this episode, it was really slow in the way it told that story. The build-up and the tension of revealing of who was eliminated.
That went on forever.
The build-up and the tension of, is this conflict going to be resolved? Or towards the end of it, when they did the movie night, everything was just so laboured, and it just felt so stretched out, as though they were struggling to fill content.
God, it was slow. The pace was glacial. I can't believe how long it took them just to get those eliminations read out. It was like, are we still here?
And also, I just thought it was really over-laboured, the way it used music to convey emotion. Pop songs.
This is just all about this. You're thinking this now, the audience. This is how you should think now, audience. This is what we want you to feel now, audience. It was just really...
When you have to use music to convey emotion or to fill gaps, then, there's something wrong with the... Can you imagine if all that music was taken out, how slow it would be? Oh, if I see one more camera tilting up to the sky, it was literally, let's cut to a wide shot because it's going to fill 10 seconds of time. And it just kind of tilts up into the moonlight sky, and just like, oh God, this is just so... You could have fit this episode into 20 minutes.
Absolutely. Nothing happened.
So I was reading an article about ex-Love Islanders and their net worth.
Right.
People who have been successful from Love Island. And it seems to me that if you're lucky and you win, or you're popular coming out of the show, a really good way to earn a fantastic living. Right. There's two ex-Love Island contestants called Molly May Hague and Tommy Fury, who came out and promoted themselves, as influencers. People who go into Love Island immediately are guaranteed a real increase in their Instagram following.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which ultimately, once you reach a certain number, you can monetize that. You can get people to, paid sponsorship, paid partnerships, etc. And they've made an absolute effing mint.
Good for them.
Out of it. Other people, such as kind of like Danny Dyer and Olivia Bowen, Megan Barton Henson, obviously people that we don't know. This is a world that we really don't inhabit and we really don't circle around. So you can understand when you're reading articles about those people making a fortune, again, how men and women would aspire to be on one of these shows.
Absolutely. God, it's an opportunity that could change your life, isn't it?
If you're wise about it, then that's you set for life, really. Invest in property, that's what they say.
Gold. That's what you're running, gold.
Yeah, also, what it did remind me of, just as a final thought, really, is just how, when you're young, again, I don't want to sound patronising, just how vapid turgid a lot of your conversations are with people.
I think you're being so funny and smart and witty, and it's like so basic.
I kind of I miss those days where you could just sit around for hours in the pub around, a few pints talking absolute shite.
Yeah, really earnestly.
I was clutching my pearls a little bit about these people sleeping together and they've only known each other for 6 weeks. And I felt like just say, just get over yourself. Come on, they're young.
I had to say that to myself because I was clutching my pearls as well, but I had to say that. But for me, I'm an only child. So the thought of sleeping in a room with one other person is weird enough. The sleeping in a room with like the Von Trapps is just horrific. I felt like I remember going to like a recreation centre that school used to take us on at this place called Allen Heads, which was deep in the Northumbrian countryside. And there'd be like, you do orienteering and stuff. And there'd be the boys' dorm and the girls' dorm. And it was like, 10 cast iron bunk beds and all the boys in there and all the girls next door. And I fucking hated it. Hated it. I was on the top bunk. That's when my early bladder problems began, clearly, because the more I knew the toilet was a real schlep to get to, let me tell you, very ingrained at an early age, but let's crash on from that, maybe.
I mean, I could fall asleep anywhere, mate. It doesn't matter who's around. I fall asleep in between tube stops.
Anyway, good. We all got our cross to bear, love, haven't we?
We have all got our cross to bear. So in conclusion, did you like Love Island? Would you watch it again?
I wouldn't watch it again. I didn't dislike it. I didn't like it. It was just a thing that I watched for an hour. It was filled with attractive people, but I just wasn't interested.
Yeah. And I would say we wouldn't slag off some people, but I did take an instant dislike to one of the men.
Did you?
But maybe we shouldn't go into that.
We mouthed the names to me.
David.
I think we'll hear that onto the mic, won't we? You can't just whisper it into a microphone. I think people heard that, Dave.
There was one man, David, who absolutely loved himself. And I just thought, that's an instant turn off for me.
Yeah.
So when David comes knocking on my door,
not for me, David, thanks. No one likes to show off.
With his shirt off.
Yeah, right.
I'll look him up and down and say, who do you think you are? And then slam the door in his face.
And then quietly sob to the floor. Floor. Like Gloria Swanson.
No, David, I've told you. Stop coming round. I'm not interested.
But David and David, that's nice. It is.
Oh, it is. One of us would have to change our name though, really, wouldn't we? Can't be called David and David. And I'm not sure what my husband would have to say about all this.
Yes, obviously, yeah. Anyway. So, Dave, what are we looking at next week?
So, next week, we're going to be looking at a show called Heartstopper. Now, season 3 of Heartstopper is coming out next week. Yeah, so anybody who wants to watch it, it's on Netflix. It's a coming-of-age romantic comedy teen drama centering on two young men who've actually have since gone on to find international acclaim in their own rights on various films. So it's very popular. It's very at the heart of teen and young people's culture.
And we're going to talk about it, and they won't give a flying fuck. Yeah.
Got to keep your finger on the pulse, Lee. That's what I say.
Yes.
So, okay. So, really looking forward to that. Heartstopper. Yeah. It'll be fun.
Even have to chop our feet off, it'll be fun. On that note, see you next week, Dave.
Till next week, Dr. Lee Arnott. Goodbye.